With a covert narcissist or any narcissist, I want you to do this, even if you can do it mentally. Moments of revelation, when they reveal who they are. Now, with my ex wife, a 100% covert narcissist, 100%. She would do things such as grabbing a Ziploc bag and putting Comet bleach in it and putting it in the washing machine because she was angry at whoever was using the washing machine in the laundromat because she wanted to use that one at that particular time. She didn't want to use the laundromat when she was free, when it opened from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. when no one was using it. No, she absolutely had to wait for everyone to get home from work, wait for the peak hours, and then use the laundromat. And if you were using a machine during that time, well, she would punish you. Now, me and my young friend Danny had to stop her from doing it because she was acting hysterical. Now, this is where I went wrong. I did not look at her behavior and say, okay, would a healthy minded person do that on their worst day? I also did not look at it and say, okay, from her perspective, is and what's how her day has gone, which is a great day, would a healthy minded person do that on the type of day she's having today? I did not do that. But what I should have done was put that in a mental inventory. Something that was so ridiculously unreasonable. I should have logged it somehow. But instead, I allowed her to gaslight me and make me think that it was my fault that she did that because being away from horrible, corrupt, terrible Northwest Indiana, being around beautiful Southern California territory, where she said the food was amazing, the weather was great, and the people, she did not know people could be that nice anywhere, and everything was so stress free, and everything was in walking distance, and everything was just so great. Later on, she told me that she was more spiritually, mentally, and physically healthy there than she'd ever been in her life. By known that, I would have kicked her out right away. But at that time, she told me that being away from home and being in this terrible area, oh my gosh, yeah, everyone's nice. Yeah, the weather's great. Yeah, the food is good. Yeah, I got this. Yeah, I got that. Yeah, there's all these benefits. But it's just terrible being away from home. Boo hoo hoo. Poor, poor me. So I thought that her behavior attacking others was my fault. But whenever she would do this, the person that she was having a fight with and everything would always start giving me dirty looks and acting as though they sympathized with her, like that poor thing. It was very strange. I would tell her that she had to apologize to a neighbor, and she'd scream and yell like a child. And be like, they were just walking, you went over there, you attacked them and yelled at them, blah blah blah. They were still nice to you. You were offended that they were nice and that they would not engage in your arguments, and then you did that. You're gonna apologize to them. She would go apologize to them, and that person would hate me for eternity after that. I'm thinking, what the hell is she telling people about me? This does not make any sense. Now, later on, I got very sick, living with her and dealing with the stress and the screaming and the yelling all the time. I was not doing well, and then I worked for a company that removed all the air conditioners from their trucks in Southern California when we were driving through the desert, and I got heat stroke, went blind in my right eye and partially blind in my left eye. And at this point, we were forced to move to back to her territory where she lived, Northwest Indiana, where she had a house. We get there, and the house is completely destroyed because the trust of her estate, who was supposed to take care of everything, he used all of her money that her mom left for her, that she put in a trust when she died, as far as a few million dollars total with the interest. when it comes, and you calculate it together. He took all of that and he completely destroyed her house. So the issue with this is that she acted so extremely devastated, but in a way that didn't make sense, like it was an act. And she stayed there for every second, for every day, for as long as she could, and it just did not make any sense. She refused to get a therapist or a psychologist. She would yell at me about it. She would not get any help. So during this time, we stayed at an Airbnb where the host was extremely hostile. One night became extremely violent, throwing stuff, and I was in the corner of the room, and my ex-wife was there because he was angry that I said that I used to work in Bakersfield, and he started telling me about how I don't know anything about Bakersfield. He knows everything about Bakersfield because his grandpa drilled for oil there once 40 years ago, and don't try and tell him anything about Bakersfield. He already knows. Just really weird. He wasn't there mentally. He was drunk and belligerent. My ex-wife. She ran out of the room, and I'm waiting for the police. I get back downstairs to the Airbnb an hour later, after escaping this very dangerous man. And she looks up at me with a grin on her face that said, "Yeah, I just did that, and there's nothing you could do about it." I should have put that in my mental inventory. And I asked her, "What the hell was that?" She's like, "What was what?" What was what? Like that. And I'm not going to tell you what that was. You know what I mean by that. What was that, Levon? She saw that we were in an extremely dangerous situation. And we found when this guy was speaking to us that he was violent, and then he blew up to the point where it looked like he could kill me, and she decided she was just going to run out of the room, not call the cops, not do anything, not stand up, nothing. Just abandoned me. That was shocking. I've never known anyone to do that. My dad would probably do that. He is a complete coward. Um, but other than that, I've never met anyone who would just do that. I mean, my dad actually would have called the cops, though. So she looks at me and she's like, "Oh, well, once the conversation got very passionate and I thought, this is man talk, I decided I should go ahead and dismiss myself from the room because when two men engage in such passionate, manly conversation, then it's up for for a woman like myself to remove myself from the area because I don't want you guys to have to deal with trying to have your conversation while a female is in the room." That's really what she said. And she said this with a grin on her face. Like, I wish he fucking killed you so I could have that pity and make people feel sorry for him. I mean, it was shocking. And later on, she gaslit me again to believe that that was my fault, that she did that to me. Because she was having such a hard time, and society has abused her so much that she can't be held responsible for her actions and what she does to people. I just given up on life. I married her, and I thought if I could fix this person, then maybe there will be some redeeming quality about my existence when I die. I did not know that there's no healing covert narcissism, and just like psychopathy, it only gets worse in time. I did not know that she had covert narcissism or what it was. I just flooded her with love, compassion, and understanding, resources, which I did not know. You do not do that with a covert narcissist. Otherwise, you make it way worse. Way worse. You need to stand up for yourself. You need to force them to get a job, and they need to learn to start taking care of themselves and functioning and pay their bills and pay to, you know what I mean? They have to learn this stuff. That's what you do. But again, these are things that belonged in a mental inventory. And if you sit down, if you're involved in a bad relationship right now, I recommend you email yourself a list. Really think about it and put together inventory of completely absurd, unreasonable behaviors that you've witnessed that person do. And look at the consistency. With my ex-wife, if I had that mental inventory and I knew about mental health, I would have left immediately. When we got to Northwest Indiana, we had an interaction with her father, who was a pedophile and rapist. And she got angry with me that I turned him in and he went to prison. Then she started lying to people, saying that she's the one who found out and she reported it. Like, it just. So she was angry at me for doing it, but she also stole the credit for it being done. But one day, this guy blew up at me in like at Applebee's or TGI Fridays, whatever, because I told him that I would not buy a Harley, that if I ever got a bike, I would get myself an old Indian and fully restore it. And I knew that this guy was a bad dude, because when I said that, the way he looked at me, he goes, what you see a lot of white male boomers do. They go, and some of the Gen Xers do that. They're always white and they tend to be chubby, usually. But you know what I'm talking about. You say something and they act like what you said is so stupid, even though what you said is common sense. Um, but that guy did that. He looked at me when I said I would buy that old Indian. He goes, and he's staring at me. While he's staring at me, the girl that he had been abusing, who was a 15-year-old girl, it was my wife's ex-wife's stepsister. She looks at him and goes, "Ooh," immediately, giving him a signal to act out, which means that they were used to seeing this guy do that. They wanted to stay on his good side as far as, "Ooh, he disagreed with you and has his own opinion." Ooh. His wife did it, and my fiance did it, giving him the go-ahead to yell at me in front of everyone there. He did not embarrass me. I did not feel embarrassed. I felt embarrassed for him, and people in the restaurant looked at him. The guy was like 60-something years old, acting that way in a public restaurant in front of people. Now, when my ex-wife did that, I got on the phone that evening looking for a way to get a ticket back home and to leave everything, but I had nothing. And I was not going to become homeless again for the third time in my life, which later on I'd be forced to. But that should have went in my mental inventory, which it did, and then later on I dismissed it as far as, well, the guy's obviously an abuser and she's afraid of him and blah, 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 blah. Maybe, there's a background with him, that I don't know about, him and her. And maybe that's why she was afraid and acted out like that. But she was with her man at the time, me, and she should have felt confident to stick by my side instead of doing that. Now, when I think of it, the best way to put it is she used me, as far as her husband, as a way to bond with other people by making fun of me and abandoning me and treating me absolutely horribly. She was not like a wife or girlfriend at all, where they hold your hand and get close to you. She always wanted to keep distance and basically point her finger at me and make fun of me in front of other people so she could have fun bullying. And I just realized that right now, that was her personality. But again, I'm just saying that inventory, that mental inventory, it is important. You know, email yourself the inventory. Don't, not even in order. Just each time you had a revelation, every revealing moment that you could think of. All right? Because I'll tell you this, when it comes to a reasonable person, if they have a bad day, I got an old friend, Brandon. He was given my position at Brackett Airport in corporate, and his whole life was handed to him. And the reason why is they said they felt sorry for him, though, so they gave him the position that was offered to me, and they had to talk corporate into it. because he was so incapable of doing anything. He would never make it in life if he wasn't given a position where he that was so cushy and cozy. And he took it. And when he did it, it was very narcissistic and terrible of him. I knew that guy for years. That only happened once. That happened one time. It ruined my life, and couldn't care less. That's bad. But it only happened once, that behavior with him for years. It was not repeatable. It was not consistent. With a narcissist, things like that will be consistent. So remember that. I get a lot of narcissists on here trying to comment saying, "Huh, you're a narcissist because you said that you did everything to make her life heaven." So let me think. Is that gaslighting? Huh, emoji. It's like, actually, that's the opposite. You see, narcissists, they try and gaslight you as far as all thumbs are fingers type arguments. It's like, well, there's 200 signs of this thing, and they all have to be consistent, and they'll pull out one thing, try and make it relate to one, show it's not consistent, and try and make that prove that you're somehow something. You know, I love to watch those comments on here. I love it. It's actually quite enjoyable because it's revealing. But look at those comments. If you're with a partner, look at those comments, and those can be revelations. Those can be revealing. And look at the consistency of how they treat people, harass people, attack people. How verbally abusive are they because that person has no way to attack them because it's over the internet. Seriously, put together something as far as these different revelations. In the future, you may need to use it, and it is very beneficial, I promise you, to have a record of these things. Because someday, like what happened with me, is I had an app called Pro versus Cons. And I was looking at the pros and cons of my ex-wife's and my relationship. And one day I got in there and I saw that I had forgotten about many of those things. And I realized it's like, oh my God, this consistency of so many things with only the last few years is really abusive and really bad and really dangerous. I need a divorce now. That's all. I'm getting to my client up here. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.